Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Continuing Education, SOCE. Diploma in Event Management, DEVMT. BHC 012, Event Planning. Block 1 Event Opportunity Assessment. Unit-2 Feasibility Assessment of the Event. 2.0 Objectives. In the previous unit we had learnt about the importance of knowing and understanding the client in order to become aware of all expectations the client has from the event. In this unit you will learn about feasibility assessment of the event and the purpose behind conducting this study. You must be familiar with the topic, Event Feasibility, in Unit 1 titled Entrepreneurial Competencies for Event Management, of Block 2, Course 1, where we had discussed feasibility assessment of events from an entrepreneurial point of view for a person who wants to establish the event's business. The present unit discusses feasibility study as an essential part of the event exercise in the project initiation phase. Hence you might find some parts of this unit similar to what was mentioned in the unit of Block 2, Course 1. This unit is very important for the purpose of understanding the process of feasibility study that leads to the developing of a successful plan for the event. Conducting a feasibility study should be the first step in an event decision plan and therefore becomes an integral aspect of the event planning process. After reading this unit, you would be able to understand how an event manager assesses the environment and event opportunity before agreeing to take up an event and starting to plan it. Explain the role and benefits of feasibility assessment that analyze the possibilities of an event's success. Identify the difference between feasibility study and business plan, and discuss important parameters, domains that are essential in feasibility assessment. 2.1 Introduction. A feasibility study enables an event manager to build up on the information acquired from the client, test the various ideas for an event and see if any idea is viable. At the end of the process there are only a limited number of ideas to choose from, out of which the one that is viable gets finalized. The larger advantage of a feasibility study is that it helps to ascertain whether the event manager will be able to fulfill the event expectations for the client and whether the event would be fruitful for the event company as well. It also gives scope for improving the feasibility of an event by improving upon the concept of the event, the strengths of the event company conducting it, and by maximizing the opportunities. 2.2 Feasibility Assessment in Event Management. The first phase of an event, i.e., project initiation phase, involves event feasibility, meaning deciding the correct approach to achieve the desired results. Managing the event as a project has been discussed in detail in Unit 1 Managing the Event Process of Block 1 in Course 3. If you know very little about the event concept and execution, higher chances are that you may fail. Feasibility studies are preliminary studies that are undertaken to determine and document the event's viability. Aim of a feasibility study. The primary aim of a feasibility study is to find out whether a particular event would achieve its objectives for the clients or not and whether it would be profitable enough for the EMC or not. Such a study would assess possibility of the event's success and profitability for all the stakeholders like the client or sponsors of the event, invitees, guests, vendors, etc. A feasibility study helps us understand what an event is and its likelihood of succeeding. In the process, a choice is given of several models for the event, and costs as well as benefits of each model are assessed. Such a study therefore looks at the value or returns to be attained. It goes on to identify the likelihood of one or more solutions meeting the event requirements. The term feasibility study denotes both the process of the study and the resulting document itself. What is a feasibility study? A feasibility study involves detailed exploration of the alternatives for an event and documenting each of the potential solutions to a particular opportunity or problem. In other words, if you are unsure whether your solution will deliver the outcome you want, a feasibility study will help you gain that clarity. The study requires evaluation of resources needed to conduct the event and understanding limitations of the event. Hence a variety of assessment methods are undertaken. The research or assessment forms the base for project planning and operation. The output of this phase becomes your specific plan for the event. Also referred to as screening process or finding and testing an idea, an event. Feasibility study is a controlled process for identifying challenges and opportunities, determining objectives, defining successful outcomes and assessing a range of costs and benefits of an event concept. Usually for larger events, a formal feasibility study is done where cost-benefit analysis or investment appraisal are taken up as assessment methods. But for the more common type of event like the one put up by a village or town or a voluntary organization, comparatively straightforward series of tests could be applied in the form of screening or feasibility study. In the case of personal events, feasibility is not a formal process. You obviously don't feasibility test a birthday or dinner party. Nevertheless, for these types of events, you think about what should be done to get things right for the event. The screening process helps to sort out less viable ideas and helps to identify ideas that will work the best when tested against the objectives or criteria set. Suppose a voluntary organization needs to raise money for a new school to teach the underprivileged. There may be many possible events that could be put on to raise money, but there has to be some way by which selection is made. Perhaps a list of ideas could be a theatrical play, a quiz competition, a sponsored marathon, a music concert, sale of handicraft items, and so on. The criteria for deciding on any of the above events could be: what type of event has been successful in the past, what can be organized given the resources of the voluntary organization, what event might earn the most money, and so on. Developing a successful event can be risky investment, and taking the event concept from an initial idea through to the operation stage is often a complex and time-consuming effort. Feasibility study provides event organizers with the opportunity to make better, more informed decisions on new event concepts. Once an event has been agreed on, the first activity of planning is about the lead time for the event, which means whether there is enough time to get it booked and organized, just the way key dates apply to organizing conferences or exhibitions. Many events go badly because of lack of time to organize them properly. In project management, a poor level of planning during the early stages due to shortage of time creates problems that will surface later. Feasibility study is essential for every type of event. In any company, an event has to compete with other events for funds. For any event to be feasible, it must meet the desired level of a return on investment, profitability. For example, in the case of events for human resources, the corporate event team would have to demonstrate that the event was a better return on investment, ROI, than an alternative solution to achieve the stated goals, such as through a CD-ROM or a course book, which could be more theoretical in nature rather than practice. This requires the event office to conduct a solid, fact-based feasibility report for the proposed event. Careful and detailed analysis of potential risks are essential when looking at the feasibility of the event. Anticipating risk and planning preventive measures can reduce the liability of the EMC. The feasibility of any event is also undertaken to ensure its sustainability. Sustainability means mainly environmental compatibility in the greenest sense of the word. It involves use of environment-friendly methods during the event or improving the situation existing prior to the event. The return cost, i.e. participation fee for the exhibition or tax contributed for the development of the territory, are some of the ways in which an event company pays for the sustainability. This kind of commitment is considered as an investment. This extra cost on the sustainability could be a part of corporate social responsibility, CSR, an important tool for event managers. The outcome of a feasibility study is a confirmed solution for implementation and can be undertaken by an event manager or an event team. Being a critical part of the event life cycle, feasibility studies establish a logical, defensible analysis of market potential and key operating concerns regarding the products and/or services offered. Many studies provide information necessary to make important decisions for event planning, execution, evaluation, or event site relocation. The core of the feasibility report discussed later in the chapter is the gathering of primary research information and the analysis of secondary research materials. Primary research identifies specific event-related data required. For example, the scope of our study may identify the parameters to maximize the event acceptance, or the study may be designed to quantify event relocation projections. Rescheduling to ensure better acceptability and success. Secondary research includes gathering data from such sources as published media reports, industry data, government reports, trade association reports, university research findings, business journals and major business publications, and numerous other database. A thorough feasibility study comprises of the event overview, market potential for the event, barriers, obstacles to event execution, target markets, marketing and sales, competition, pricing strategy, operating profitability, investment, budget parameters, ROI and international expansion. There are various types of feasibility studies. Depending on the requirements, a Complete feasibility study may be conducted or a part of it. For example, to assess the possibility of building a stage with digital background, the event manager may undertake only technical feasibility study. Such a study may analyze whether technology needed for the stage exists or not, how difficult it will be to build it, and whether the company is experienced in using that technology to make adding new technology worthwhile. A scheduled feasibility study involves determining answers to questions such as, when is the right time to execute this event? Will there be another event that would overshadow it or interfere with success of this event? How much time is available to arrange proposed event? What type of an amount of resources are required to get a new event? A cultural feasibility study measures the impact of event on the local and general culture. An economic feasibility study is used to determine what type of economic impact the event will have on the event firm and stakeholders. It is estimated that 1 in 50 event ideas are actually commercially viable. Therefore, a business feasibility study is an effective way to safeguard against wasteful investments. Once the results from the study are seen to be feasible, the next logical step is to proceed with full planning of the event. Information and resources uncovered through the feasibility study will support the business planning stage and will reduce the research time necessary to develop an effective business plan for the event. An event proposal is usually generated after a feasibility study. Event proposal is a detailed recommendation for an event and will be discussed in Unit 4 of this block. Feasibility study versus business plan. We had discussed in detail about the preparation of a business plan for an event company in Unit 2 of Block 3 in Course 1. A business plan is a blueprint of an event company's future. It sets the direction for business and is vital for securing finance. Hence, it is regularly reviewed for keeping it up to date. There is often a confusion over the roles of feasibility study and business plan, the two tools used in the business development process. Various components are common to both. Some information developed during feasibility study can be incorporated into the business plan. Likewise, the business plan contains aspects that were not included in the feasibility study's findings. Feasibility study is conducted as an investigative tool during the initial phases of event development, prior to obtaining financing. It is an analytical tool that includes multiple scenarios to determine viability. If, after completion, the event company decides not to proceed, there is no need to undertake the process of creating a business plan. If the decision is made to move forward, a business plan is developed. The business plan, which is developed on the basis of the most promising aspects of the feasibility study, is the blueprint from which decisions will be made on objectives, deliverables and timelines of the event. Since the concept has been shown to be viable in the feasibility report, the business plan is much more focused on what action steps will now be taken during and after implementation. Components of the business plan may include details such as key management personnel, business location, the financial package, product flow, and potential target markets. Benefits of a feasibility study. The feasibility of an event idea or theme is of primary importance for its success. The benefits of carrying out a feasibility study are as follows. It helps in identifying the risks of failure. It assists event managers in decision-making regarding event planning and execution. It provides support evidence for recommendations and demonstrates the strengths and weakness of the event concept. It analyzes business idea in depth, providing greater clarity on the event concept and objectives. Allows for better, more informed decisions on the event concept related to logistics, finances, resources, marketing, human resource planning and management. Reduces the risk of a wasted investment in time, resources and money. Helps to reduce the event project planning time, as it shows a clear path an event should follow. 2.3 Feasibility Assessment Steps. The feasibility assessment process has to check the intent, purpose, the extent, scope, and content, program of an event. It involves the following steps. 1. Identification of event framework. In this step we identify all parameters for the event. For example, the theme or an idea for the event, target audience, venue, media coverage, time, date of program execution or holding of the event, finances available or sponsorships to be generated, etc. 2. Systematic identification and analysis of alternative ways of achieving the event objectives. Each item on the event framework, be it a venue or time or central theme of the event, is discussed in detail and various alternatives are generated. For example, if it is a wedding, the date may be already fixed, but we need to work upon the various possible venues and assess the benefits and limitations of each. Suppose a client wishes to hold the wedding in a fort or a historical monument, the availability of such venues needs to be explored. 3. Repeated testing of viability at each and every step. The event manager would assess each alternative for each parameter or item. Each alternative's viability is tested in detail. The effect should also be assessed. This process is repeated with each component at every step. 4. Deployment of event plan. This is the final result of the feasibility assessment study. We arrive at elements like the theme, venue, time, audience, finance needed, sponsors required, etc., which form the event framework. These steps may sound simple but require a lot of hard work and effort by the entire team. A careful feasibility will give a good framework for the event operation team to work. The real success would be achieved through careful execution of the plan by the operation team. Who can carry out a feasibility study? The feasibility study is best provided by an impartial event manager and his team. To carry out such a study, the following attributes are required. I. Objectivity, by an unbiased event manager with varied experience from the industry. This is because knowledge about the outside world tends to be incomplete or biased because of partial information and opinions from employees and vendors. E. Expertise, an event manager should know what to look for and where to look. He should have the ability to conduct both primary and secondary research and understand all parameters of assessment listed above. E. Experience, though all events are unique, a mature event manager who has years of experience would be able to draw from past successes of different event projects and apply them to the present situation. A professional team can be created for this purpose. The team should focus on facilitating essential to achieving relevant and usable data from a group session. Let us now look at the various parameters or domains that an event manager must cover in the feasibility study to arrive at the framework of the proposed event. 2.4 Feasibility Assessment Parameters. Domains. To assess feasibility, there may be a brainstorming session where the entire event team meets and discusses various ideas. This has to be done systematically. In regard to the feasibility of major events, intensive methods such as SWOT or cost-benefit analysis etc., discussed later in this unit, are used. Areas or domains covered in the feasibility study vary according to the aim and focus of the event. For example, a product launch event, whose primary objective is to increase the profit of a company with a new product, is purely economically driven. Such an event would require rigorous financial analysis to assure that the primary objective is met by the event. However, it is important to recognize the varied nature of events. There may be many acceptable ideas or none may be found feasible. The organizers will finally have to make a choice about what to do. Keeping in mind the varied nature of events, the domains or parameters which could be assessed are the following. Marketing feasibility. Having identified various ideas and concepts for the possible event, feasibility of the event to the target market has to be tested. Here the event organizers or clients should find out what ideas and concepts will be most suited to the target market through a brainstorming process involving the event organizing team and the client, or some pilot research of the potential market. This is essential as the event organizers may not be representing the target market. Knowledge of target market would include the type of people, their demographic profile, their interests, age group, income group, familiar activities, past experiences of events, size of the target group, and so on. The basic objective of marketing feasibility is to see if the various ideas will work in the target market. It is also necessary to see that the ideas are different from successful competing events, to avoid organizing groups putting on almost the same type of event and clashing with dates. Environmental search or scanning is one way of doing this, as recommended by Coster and Ter. It involves compiling a list of event dates happening in the area by gathering information from tourists departments, publications, local newspapers, friends and other contacts who are aware of similar events. This exercise will serve a number of purposes such as I. It will identify dates to avoid. E. It will give information of what is going on and the preferences, interests of local markets. And E. It may give additional ideas or identify gaps in the market that can be filled. Audience, target population. The readiness or adaptability of the target population needs to be assessed. Is the location of the event venue crucial for attracting the audience numbers you require to make the event successful? Do we have enough target audience for the event to ensure that all tickets for the event would be sold and the event would be Profitable for both the client and the EMC? Market research into current trends will tell us which group of people is the right market segment with significant potential. A wide range of reports are available from the tourist departments at the district, state and national levels, and at market research organizations. For example, findings from reports on the youth or senior citizens will tell us if those groups are potential market segments for youth or tourism market and so on. Operational feasibility. Operational feasibility is a measure of how well a proposed system solves the problems, takes advantage of the opportunities identified and how it satisfies the identified requirements. Events often fall into two operational styles: volunteer. Example some personal, sports and cultural, or professional, example MICE. Brand building, some sports, cultural and sometimes personal, although some events have parts of both volunteer and professional. Volunteer committees may have little or no experience and depend on their own experience, their sense to conduct the event and knowledge of previous activities. Professional organizations, like EMCs, organizers or consultants, have the expertise. Professionally run events may have the operational feasibility done in the style of the organization. But for volunteer style of organization, the matter of achievability is important. Here the organizing committee has to have the relevant expertise. For many special events and other events, expertise is often built up over many years, or at least the knowledge about where to obtain expertise. This expertise is very important when it comes to issues of health, safety, legality or technology in events. Resources driven by purposes. Various purposes of the event determine the resources required. For example, the purposes of a corporate event could be to provide new information about a product or company, bring people together outside office setting, exchanging ideas, information, find solution to existing problems, provide training, felicitation of an individual or team, or to reinforce a concept or an idea, reminding or remembrance. The purposes of a family event could be to mark an occasion or celebration like anniversary or birthday, to celebrate festivals together, or to bring families together for celebration of occasion. Resource needs are based on how ambitious or limited the ideas are, what expertise and staffing is available, what locations or venues are available with capacity at the required dates, what timescale and what technology or other equipment will be needed. Legalities need due consideration. Are licenses needed? Will insurance be needed? Are permits required for various activities etc.? This is the role of the operations feasibility or screening. Skills needed for event execution. The event managers or EMCs have to judge their own capacities or capabilities to handle the event in its proposed scope and context. The availability of skilled human resources for efficient execution of activities, products, services, the features of the event site, communication, technology, vendors, suppliers etc. have to be assessed. Large events demonstrate a wide range of skills that were used behind the scenes and what efforts were put in. No wonder events like the international trade fairs and Olympic Games turn out to be outstanding successes. Similarly, many managed events and activations, like product launches, conventions, exhibitions, employ a lot of human resource skills, technical skills, time and commitment by the event staff. Technical and system feasibility. Technical and system feasibility is carried out to determine whether the EMC has the capability, in terms of software, hardware, personnel and expertise, to handle the completion of the project. An event manager has to find the technical requirements of the proposed event and match it with those the company already has or has to acquire. For example, for a film awards function, digital stage background is essential. The assessment is also based on an outline design of system requirements in terms of input, processes, output, fields, programs, and procedures. This can be quantified in terms of volumes of data, trends, frequency of updating, etc., in order to estimate whether the new system will perform adequately or not. Legal feasibility. Legal feasibility determines whether the proposed event conflicts with legal requirements. Lots of permissions are needed for holding an event. Permissions are needed from various departments like traffic department, if many people are likely to attend the event, police to play loud music, or from municipality to use a particular venue etc. If you want to serve liquor, alcohol, a liquor license is required for the venue. Hence, an event manager has to ensure whether it is possible to hold an event in the framework proposed by the client by studying the legal feasibility. Host, community readiness and support. The attitude of community or audience towards the event matters a lot. While hosting large events like the Olympic or Commonwealth Games, people will have to be prepared for inconveniences and changes in the city, as some businesses and residents could get affected. Hence, it is important to know whether the community is ready for such an event or not. Opinions of the community vary. For some, the funds used in the event could seem like a wastage of money, while for others who have an interest in the tourism industry and the economic potential of such large events, this event may seem useful and interesting. Without support of the host community, it is not possible to ensure an event's success. The project's alternatives are evaluated for their impact on the local and general culture. Environmental factors also need to be considered, and these factors are to be well known. An analysis of community support must take the opinions of all stakeholders into account. Venue, availability of the desired venue and the cost of venue rental are key considerations. Venue is largely dependent on the type of event. Your client may want to hold a wedding at a seaside cottage or at a palace or haveli, a mansion that is usually rented for holding functions. The event manager would need to ensure in advance that such a venue is available on the date and there is no other event happening in and around that venue on that date to ensure accessibility to the venue. Venue managers can contribute to the technical success of an event. Hence, their expertise plays a significant role where events are held in function rooms with tried and tested facilities along with numerous features, rather than renting tents and temporary accommodations. Along with this, the location and cost of the venue can have a critical impact on pricing and promotion. Venue cost is also determined by the time period for which it is required. Some events use venues where setup and tearing down, dismantling, take a long time, and this results in increased rental costs. Media support. Media plays a very important role in the success of any event. The type of event determines whether the event will attract national and international attention. Positive reporting or live telecast of many events play a decisive role in branding, especially mega events' success or failure. Usually, event firms have media partners who provide media support for all the events organized by them. However, selecting right media partners who can ensure the right kind of media publicity to the event needs to be assessed in advance. If the event is a youth festival, for example, the organizers should try to determine which television stations, radio channels, local publications, newspapers and magazines are most likely to be used in the area. Press releases, guest appearances and even advertisements should then be targeted at those media outlets. For example, a mega sports event is most likely to be telecasted on Prime Sports Channel. For many events, media rights are also purchased or media and telecast facilities hired. Risks. Feasibility. There are many risks associated with the staging of events. A brainstorming session will help the organizers to identify and analyze risks. There may be risks like collapse of equipment, building, structures, heavy weather like wind, rain, security threats to VIPs and participants, fire, accidents at the venue, crowd control, food poisoning, breakdown in water supply or power supply, and many more. The event organizers need to have a relative degree of confidence that the event will not result in a financial loss. The event is organized sufficiently well so that all parties are satisfied. The organization's mission will be enhanced as a result of staging the event. The risk of injury is minimized as far as possible. There are contingency plans to ensure the safety and well-being of all participants. The venue and equipment will not suffer unexpected damage or loss. The reputation of all parties, including the sponsor if one exists, as event organizers remains intact. There is a need for contingency planning to deal with potential risks. Following this, policies and procedures must be put in place to deal with every possible eventuality. Financial feasibility. History shows numerous organizations, large and small, that have run into financial difficulty and even bankruptcy as a result of staging an event. Therefore, it would be prudent to ensure that the initial budgeting processes are accurate and to aim for substantial profit. Economic analysis is the most frequently used method for evaluating financial feasibility. Commonly known as cost-benefit analysis, it is used to determine the benefits and savings that are expected from event and compare them with costs. If benefits outweigh costs, then the decision is made to take up an event. In a cost-based study, it is important to identify cost and benefit factors, which can be categorized as follows: I. Development costs and E. Operating costs. This is an analysis of the costs to be incurred in the event and the benefits derivable out of the event. The EMC usually earns a fee and the client is ultimately responsible for the cost of budgeted items and any variations, assuming that the event has to make money or at least to cover its costs. Possible achievable events need to be identified and shortlisted. After this, an outline budget for each one should be prepared to help the decision-making process. For this to happen, the organizers will have to come up with some basic financial information, both in terms of revenue, how many people attend, what can they be charged, how to raise revenues in other ways during the event, etc., and in terms of costs, what are the likely costs of the location of venue, the staffing, the equipment, the decor, the consumables, the insurance, the food and drink, etc., to assess whether a profit or a surplus can be made from this. The decision of what price is to be charged to visitors and when the decision is made is critical. Tickets cannot be sold a day after the event, nor can the merchandise that was produced for the event, such as t-shirts, stationery, cups, CDs, caps, etc. These when not sold will mean lost revenue for the event. Even the concessional outlets that sell food and beverages do not get a second chance at sales. Therefore, both the decision on price and the timing of this decision are extremely important in ensuring that the event audience reaches a viable level. Course -5 discusses in detail about event pricing. Proper budgeting will provide a reasonably accurate idea of the costs involved in running the event and in deciding what to charge for the tickets. Before deciding on prices for the ticket, you need to understand the local market and the consumers' perceptions regarding value for money. For non-ticketed events such as an exhibition, price charged for exhibiting is based on cost involved in staging it and the possible number of exhibitors. For fundraising events, you need to keep within the budget, and this may be established by the non-profit organizations committee. In some event projects, especially large-scale ones, there are both capital costs and running costs. Think of the Commonwealth Games. The capital costs are about building the facilities, the infrastructure, the accommodation, etc. And the running costs are about operating the games. It is most important that the would-be organizers exercise a high degree of realism when estimating possible revenues. It is vital that all costs are included. According to a well-known event manager, two typical situations can spell disaster. I. The event goes ahead despite the loss of a major source of income, i.e. sponsorship is not as much as planned. Or a funding submission to the government fails, or only half as many participants enter, an unexpected cost arises but it is too late to cancel or change the event, i.e. venue costs escalate, errors are made in calculating the cost of officials, or extra equipment has to be bought at the last moment. A general rule for running events is that they must not run into loss. There are events that have to make sufficient money to cover costs and break even, or make a small surplus. The break-even point needs to be calculated along with minimum profit envisioned and their fees for holding an event. The break-even point has been discussed in detail in Course 5 Event Financing. When a client is paying for the staging of an event, the EMC would develop an event budget based on what the client expects as benefits from the event. For this purpose, an event manager needs to work out a tentative financial plan with both expected income and their sources and expected expenditure, schedule or time feasibility. There are a number of crucial factors that determine whether there is sufficient time to make all necessary plans and arrangements to stage a special event. In particular, there are two crucial factors, I. The ability to book a venue, and E. The necessity to give participants an appropriate length of notice. Any event entails a number of tasks, hence the would-be organizers should look very closely at the time allowed to complete such tasks. Events are handled as projects. The schedule feasibility is of extreme importance. A project will fail if it takes too long to be completed before it is useful. Typically this means estimating how long the system will take to develop, and if it can be completed in a given time period using some methods like payback period. Schedule feasibility is a measure of how reasonable the project timetable is. Some projects are initiated with specific deadlines. Given the EMC's technical expertise, are the project deadlines reasonable? Whether the deadlines are mandatory or desirable have to be determined. In a time-based study, an analysis of the time required to achieve a return on investments is also undertaken. This is an important factor before an EMC finally accepts to do this event, as profit both in terms of money and future business are the prime motives for managing events professionally. For example, a corporate Event has to be so scheduled as to capture the maximum attention, and it is also ensured that nothing else is planned, especially by the rival company, for those days. For example, when planning launch of a new car model, an event manager has to ascertain that the rival car company is not planning to launch their new model in the same segment. 2.5 Screening events through alternative criteria. An event manager should undertake proper research about the corporation, client, and the environment in which it operates to enable an understanding of the client's marketing strategies. Event managers must keep a track and monitor the economic, cultural and political environment in which the event companies and corporations operate. The monitoring helps the event manager to identify changes in the operating environments of corporations that can make a sponsorship effective for the company. The following criteria, as proposed by Crompton through a memorable acronym of CEDAR-AE, summarizes the screening process that businesses use. CEDAR-AE is used to identify appropriate sponsorship, and you have already learned this in the previous unit. CEDAR-AE is another good way for event managers to analyze the event and identify potential sponsors. CEDAR-AE stands for Customer Audience, Exposure Potential, Distribution Channel Audience, Advantage over Competitors, Resource Investment Involvement Required, Events Characteristics, Event Organization's Reputation, Entertainment and Hospitality Opportunities. The task for event managers is to analyze their event using these criteria and then find companies whose marketing needs can be satisfied by the benefits offered by the event. CEDAR-AE has been discussed in detail in section 1.5 of the previous unit. The same details are applicable here and should be learnt. Not all of the above criteria mentioned in CEDAR-AE will be used by EMCs. However, event managers must find companies that have the promotional needs which can be satisfied by the EMC, construct sponsorship proposals accordingly, and act to ensure that what is promised is delivered to sponsors. 2.6 Tools for feasibility. There are many tools which can be borrowed from other disciplines to assess the feasibility of an event. Some important tools are as follows. SWOT analysis in event planning. The SWOT analysis is a strategic planning tool which is used to identify and analyze the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, SWOT, of an event, company, plan or project. It is familiar to most event managers. For example, as mentioned in CEDAR-AE, before organizing a corporate event it is necessary to do an environmental research of the products, services promoted and sold by your corporate client. You need to find out how the company promotes its products, how the company wants to build, enhance the image associated with its product, also known as the brand image. What is the market value and market share of the company and its products? What are the features of the product and who are its customers? What are the advantages and disadvantages of the product in comparison to competitors' products? Thus, if you are organizing an event, big or small, this small research will help you in planning and managing an effective event campaign. Strengths. Identifying and analyzing the internal strengths of your project. Organization helps in achieving project's objectives. These strengths can be experienced event team, high motivation level, excellent PR, good market share, strong brand name, many social media followers, usage of right event marketing tools, enthusiasm and commitment of volunteers, the specialized knowledge of any area like the lighting engineer or design creation, the wide range of products available for planning, theme and decor, etc. Weaknesses. These are those internal attributes of your project, organization, which are harmful in achieving project's objectives. Weaknesses can be lack of experience, skills and knowledge of event team, their lack of availability, low energy level, lack of funds, social loafing, lack of media exposure and corporate contacts, small social follower base, not a lot of brand recognition, small budget. Not always a bad thing, etc. Opportunities. These are external favorable factors that may occur and are helpful in achieving the project's objectives. Opportunities can be new sponsorships, unexpected positive publicity, little competition, favorable economic conditions, availability of state-of-the-art infrastructure, support from the local authorities, great weather coming up and many more. Threats. These are the external factors which are harmful in achieving the project's objectives. Threats can be high competition, little or no support from local authorities, bad weather, poor infrastructure, unavailability of raw material, and poor publicity etc. A SWOT analysis is thus necessary to maximize the potential of strengths and opportunities of your project and minimize the impact of weaknesses and threats. In a nutshell, it reduces chances of risks. The internal and external situation analysis can produce a large amount of information, much of which may not be highly relevant. The SWOT analysis can serve as an interpretative filter to reduce the information to a manageable quantity of key issues. It classifies the internal aspects of the company as strengths or weaknesses and the external situational factors as opportunities or threats. Strengths can serve as a foundation for building a competitive advantage, and weaknesses may hinder it. By understanding these four aspects of its situation, a firm can better leverage its strengths, correct its weaknesses, capitalize on golden opportunities, and deter potentially devastating threats. Acknowledging potential weaknesses and dealing with them will minimize the risks. Internal analysis. The internal analysis is a comprehensive evaluation of the internal environment's potential strengths and weaknesses. Factors should be evaluated across the organization in areas such as company culture, company image, organizational structure, key staff, access to natural resources, position on the experience curve, operational efficiency, operational capacity, brand awareness, market share, financial resources, exclusive contracts, and patents, and trade secrets. The SWOT analysis summarizes the internal factors of the firm as a list of strengths and weaknesses. External analysis. An opportunity is the chance to introduce a new product or service that can generate superior returns. Opportunities can arise when changes occur in the external environment. Many of these changes can be perceived as threats to the market position of existing products. Changes in the external environment may be related to customers, competitors, market trends, suppliers, partners, social changes, new technology, economic environment, and political and regulatory environment. Analysis report. After conducting research on market, competitors, product, service and SWOT analysis, an event manager should create a report which contains details of all the research work done. Documentation of this research work is important later for event evaluation. Your analysis report will also help you in getting sponsorship for your event. While the purpose of conducting the feasibility of an event is to improve the strengths of the organization and maximize the opportunities, acknowledging potential weaknesses and dealing with them will minimize the risks. By assessing potential threats and introducing contingency plans to cope up with them, feasibility of the event will improve. The choice of date, for example, can be compared using a table of dates. If an event has to launch an ecologically sustainable product, 3 dates can be compared, such as World Environment Day, Earth Day, or a day to be decided by other criteria like availability of suitable venue or feasibility of date of a chief guest. A SWOT analysis and construction of a plan enable the event planner to make informed decisions regarding the feasibility of an event and allow flexibility for the event planners to make changes as required as the event develops. Gap analysis. Gap analysis is a risk management tool that could look for gaps in the feasibility study and event best practices. It is best conducted during the drafting of the feasibility study because the process of compiling the study may uncover areas that have been left out. A gap analysis can be carried out by using checklists or by comparing elements to previous events. You may list characteristic factors of the present situation, factors needed to achieve future objectives, and highlighting the existing gaps that need to be filled. Gap analysis forces a company to reflect on what it is and what they want to be in the future. As the event team may be too far immersed in the study to recognize gaps, it is wise to have another event planner to review the study. Cost-benefit analysis. The event manager can prepare a cost-benefit analysis as a part of feasibility study depending on the size and uniqueness of the event. To conduct such a study may require a lot of time and resources for international events. The cost of such a study may be high in terms of money and time and should be carried out only if the event has an acceptable return on investment. Over time, the feasibility studies can save the corporate $millions by eliminating events with a poor ROI or payback and directing funds to those events with the greatest return on investment. Initial client interview. According to a very experienced event manager, the initial client interview is necessary to ensure a fit between the client and the event planner or the event management team. After getting a request for an event, the event manager interviews the client as much as the client does. Nobody writes a check because they want to write it, they want a return on investment. Client interview is therefore an essential tool for feasibility and has been discussed in detail in the previous unit. A review of the previous unit tells us that Understanding your client and working together for solutions contributes towards delivering the desired event successfully by meeting the priorities, goals, and objectives of the client. 2.7 WRITING A feasibility report. Reporting is as important as conducting a feasibility study. It is on the basis of reports that the stakeholders would discuss all aspects of an event and possible event framework. All alternatives would be discussed, and on the basis of the outcome of the meeting, based on feasibility report, the decision would be taken by the event company to finally take up an event or not. When writing a feasibility report, the following points should be considered: a brief description of the business activity, event framework with alternatives, the human and economic factor, resource availability and expected profit, most important factor that can decide if an event will be successful or not. Precautions which must be taken while executing this event. Risk factors including high to moderate and low risk factors. Suggestion of accepting or rejecting an event. In-text activity 2. You wish to organize a rural artisans fair in your area. Do your own sort analysis for the event. 2.8 Conclusion. Feasibility assessment helps an event manager to think through many aspects of an event and plan the event for maximum benefits and success of an event. The entire event plan can be easily drawn on the basis of feasibility assessment reports. Thus, every manager must conduct a feasibility study before committing to doing an event. However, the size and details of feasibility assessment depend on the size of the event and money involved in it. Following a feasibility study, bidding for the event is done, which will be discussed in detail in the next chapter. 2.9 Let us sum up. Every event should carry out a feasibility study to assess the possibility of success and profitability for all stakeholders. It is a preliminary study undertaken before the real work of an event starts, and is the first step in an event decision plan. An event manager must accurately weigh the cost versus benefits before taking an event. For an event to be feasible, it has to meet the desired level of ROI. A feasibility study has various benefits, including identifying the risks of failure, decision-making regarding event planning and execution, analysis of business idea in depth, and reduction of event project planning time. Events are assessed based on various domains, and a professional team can be created for the purpose. Possessing objectivity, expertise and experience. Feasibility study can be done using tools such as SWOT analysis, gap analysis, cost-benefit analysis and client interview. A feasibility report enables all stakeholders to discuss various aspects of an event on the basis of which a decision would be taken up by the company whether to take up the event or not. A feasibility study that leads to an event approval will also ascertain the likelihood of the event's success before the real work of the project begins. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.